The first light of the twin suns spilled across the polished floors of the palace. The halls were long and quiet, stretching far beyond what a human eye could see. Yarrow, a human, moved carefully, carrying a small basket of cleaning tools. He was a janitor, yes, but in this palace, his role went beyond sweeping floors and polishing surfaces. He was a single father to two very special daughters. Myra and Tilo were not like other children. They were twins born in the palace, and they were deaf. Communication for them required patience, gestures, and a gentle heart. Yarrow smiled as he peeked into the nursery, where Myra and Tilo were sitting on a soft, glowing mat. Their skin shimmered faintly under the morning light, and their eyes were wide with curiosity. The palace staff often overlooked the twins, thinking that being children of humans was unusual. But Yarrow did not care about titles, ranks, or whispers behind his back. He only cared about helping his daughters feel at home in this enormous alien world. "Good morning, Myra." "Good morning, Tilo," Yarrow signed, his hands moving slowly and deliberately. The twins watched his gestures closely, eyes following every movement. Even though they could not hear, they understood the rhythm and care behind each sign. Myra clapped her hands softly, her small fingers glowing faintly with excitement. Tilo tilted her head, mirroring her sister's motion, and a tiny smile spread across her face. Yarrow laughed softly, placing the basket down. "Today, we will try something new," he signed. "A game to help you understand the palace schedules better." The twins leaned forward eagerly. The palace, with all its grandeur and strange customs, could be overwhelming. There were rules about where one could walk, what to say to certain officials, and even the proper way to carry objects. For Myra and Tilo, understanding all of this without hearing was challenging. Yarrow had taken it upon himself to invent a method to help them learn. He pulled out a small flat board from his basket. On it were tiny symbols, some glowing faintly, representing different areas of the palace and daily activities. Yarrow pointed to the first symbol and tapped it gently. "This is the dining hall," he signed. "When the light glows here, it is time for meals." Myra touched the symbol lightly, feeling the warmth of the glow. Tilo followed, her small hands pressing against the surface. They repeated Yarrow's gestures, trying to copy the rhythm and movement. Yarrow guided their hands, correcting gently when they missed a motion. "Yes, just like that," he signed. "Good job, both of you." After a few minutes, the twins began to respond with more confidence. Myra pointed to the symbol for the gardens, then tapped it twice. Tilo followed with a small nod, tapping the same symbol once. Yarrow's heart warmed as he watched them grasp the meaning of his instructions. He realized that every small breakthrough mattered. Every smile, every correct gesture, was a victory in a world that was not built for humans or for deaf children. Once the twins seemed comfortable, Yarrow decided it was time to make learning more fun. He arranged a series of colored stones in a line leading to a small model of the palace. Each stone represented a different part of the building. "Now," he signed, "we will walk through the palace using the stones. Each step will remind you where to go." Myra and Tilo giggled as they followed him, stepping carefully on each stone. They learned to associate colors with places, movements with activities. Yarrow made sure to praise them at every turn, his eyes soft with encouragement. "Perfect, Myra. Perfect, Tilo," he signed, smiling. For a moment, the palace felt ordinary, almost like a small home. The grand walls and strange alien technology faded into the background as the bond between father and daughters took center stage. Yarrow sometimes wondered if the palace would ever truly accept them. But in these small moments, he knew they had each other, and that was enough. After the game, Yarrow sat down on a soft cushion with the twins. He pulled out a small snack, carefully prepared to match the twins' preferences. Myra reached for it eagerly, her tiny hands shaking with excitement. Tilo hesitated for a moment, then took a small piece, looking up at her father for approval. Yarrow nodded and smiled. "Eat slowly, both of you," he signed. "Enjoy it." While the twins ate, Yarrow thought about the challenges ahead. He knew the palace officials watched him with suspicion. A human raising alien twins, teaching them without sound, was unusual. Yet he had no fear. His daughter's happiness mattered more than anything else. Every step he took, every gesture he taught, was a step toward giving them a normal life. Even in a palace full of wonders and rules beyond human understanding, once the twins had finished, Yarrow picked up the basket again and moved toward the main hall. Today, he had decided to try something more ambitious. He wanted to teach the twins how to navigate the central corridors using their symbols and stones. It would be challenging, but he knew they were ready. The central hall was vast, ceilings that seemed to stretch into the clouds and floors that reflected the light in dazzling patterns. Alien portraits and tapestries lined the walls, showing the history of the rulers and their achievements. Yarrow held Mira's hand in one, and Tilo's in the other, guiding them carefully. The twins looked around with awe, their glowing eyes reflecting the grandeur of the palace. "Stay close," Yarrow signed. "Follow the stones and the gestures. Remember, each color tells a story." The twins nodded, trusting their father completely. They walked slowly at first, then gradually with more confidence. Yarrow watched them closely, ready to correct any mistakes. His heart swelled with pride as they repeated the gestures he had taught them, moving through the palace as if they had been born to its halls. Suddenly, a soft vibration ran through the floor. Yarrow paused, sensing something unusual. The twins stopped as well, looking around curiously. From the far end of the hall, massive doors began to open. A figure appeared, tall and imposing. The air seemed to change as the figure stepped forward. It was the alien queen. Her presence was commanding, her eyes scanning the hall with authority. Even the palace staff fell silent, bowing deeply as she passed. Yarrow froze, unsure of what to do. The twins, unaware of protocol, waved at her cheerfully. Myra's tiny hands moved in a friendly gesture and Tilo followed, giggling softly. For a moment, the queen stopped. She studied Yarrow, then the twins. There was curiosity in her gaze, perhaps even a hint of amusement. Yarrow swallowed, unsure whether he was in trouble or being acknowledged. He signed quickly to the twins, "Stay calm, stay close to me."
Nice.
The queen's eyes lingered on the human father and his daughters. She noticed the care in Yarrow's movements, the patience in his gestures, and the trust the twins had in him. For someone so small and unassuming, he carried himself with a quiet strength. It was a strength not born from power or weapons, but from love and determination. Mira and Tilo, sensing the queen's attention, giggled again and waved. The queen's expression softened slightly. She had seen many humans in her time, but none like this one. This human did not bow, did not plead, and yet commanded respect through his actions alone. He was different. Yarrow felt a mixture of fear and pride. Fear because the queen was powerful and unpredictable. Pride because his daughters had not been scared and he had helped them navigate this moment. He realized that every small effort he had made to teach them, protect them, and love them had led to this. The queen continued to watch as Yarrow guided the twins through a few more steps, repeating gestures and symbols. She seemed to study not only the human skill, but also his heart. In that moment, the palace felt a little smaller, a little warmer. Yarrow's dedication, patience, and love shone brighter than any jewel or decoration in the hall. The queen finally stepped forward, her gaze fixed on Yarrow and the twins. There was no anger, no harsh judgment, only a quiet curiosity and respect. She had walked into the hall expecting obedience and ceremony, but what she found was a human teaching his children in a way that transcended her understanding. Yarrow met her gaze and signed one final message to the twins. "Be polite, but be yourselves." Mira and Tilo nodded, smiling. The queen's eyes softened further as she observed the small family. In that moment, something unspoken passed between them. Respect, recognition, and the possibility of trust. Yarrow took a deep breath. Feeling the weight of the palace, the queen, and the day ahead, he knew that this encounter could change everything for him and his daughters. But he also knew one thing for certain. No matter what happened, he would always guide them, teach them, and protect them. Even in the vastness of a palace ruled by beings far older and wiser than he. For now, the mourning continued. The twin suns rose higher, casting golden light on the human janitor and his extraordinary daughters. In a palace full of secrets, power, and alien authority, a small human heart shone brightly, proving that love and determination could make even the most impossible place feel like home. The palace felt unusually quiet after the alien queen's unexpected visit. Yarrow stood in the main hall, holding Mira and Tilo's hands. Their small fingers gripped his tightly, as if sensing the unspoken tension in the air. Despite the grandeur of the palace and the authority of the queen, Yarrow's mind was focused on one thing: helping his daughters feel confident and safe. He knew that the queen's presence, though silent, had left a mark on the twins. "Let us practice something new," Yarrow signed gently, kneeling to be at their eye level. He pulled out a small, flexible board covered in symbols that glowed faintly when touched. "This will help you understand the palace activities even better," he said. Mira and Tilo leaned forward eagerly, their eyes wide with curiosity. They had learned many gestures and signs already, but this board was different. It had moving parts and small tiles that could be rearranged to tell a story. Yarrow began to demonstrate. He moved one of the tiles to a symbol of the gardens and tapped it twice. "When the light glows here, it is time to go to the gardens," he signed. Mira touched the tile and smiled, tapping it twice as well. Tilo looked confused for a moment, her tiny eyebrows furrowing. Yarrow noticed immediately. "Do not worry, Tilo," he signed softly. "Let us try it together." He guided her hand over the tile slowly, letting her feel the warmth of the glow. He repeated the motion several times, each time using his hands to show the gesture clearly. Finally, Tilo mimicked him perfectly. Her face lit up with a bright, proud smile. Mira clapped softly, happy to see her sister succeed. Yarrow felt a swell of pride in his chest. Teaching his daughters in a palace full of aliens was never easy. Most humans would be afraid to enter these halls, let alone teach royal children. But Yarrow had learned that love and patience could break barriers that no rank or rule could enforce. Every small success, every smile, was proof that human determination could shine even in a world that was not built for them. After a few minutes of practicing the tiles, Yarrow introduced a new challenge. He had arranged several glowing stones along a small path that led to a miniature model of the palace. Each stone represented a different room or activity in the palace. The twins had to walk along the stones and touch each one in the correct order while performing the associated gesture. Mira took the lead, stepping carefully from stone to stone. She repeated each gesture with a small nod, following the instructions Yarrow had taught. Tilo hesitated, unsure at first, but Yarrow stayed by her side, encouraging her silently. Slowly she began to follow, mirroring her sister's movements. By the time they reached the end of the path, both twins were laughing, proud of themselves. "Excellent work, both of you," Yarrow signed. "You are learning very quickly," the twins beamed, their tiny hands glowing faintly as they clapped. Yarrow felt a warm sense of accomplishment. In a palace full of beings older and wiser than him, he had found a way to make learning exciting, engaging, and accessible for his daughters. It was not just about teaching rules or gestures. It was about giving them confidence, letting them know that they could navigate a world that sometimes seemed too big for them. Just as they were finishing, a soft chime echoed through the hall. Yarrow glanced up. A small mechanical assistant, shaped like a floating orb, hovered nearby. It was one of the palace's devices used for communication and coordination. "Message for the queen," the orb signaled. The twins looked at Yarrow curiously. He smiled and signed. "The queen has a message. Let us continue our practice, and then we will see what she wants." He rearranged the tiles, this time focusing on activities that the twins would need to understand later in the day. There were symbols for the dining hall, the observatory, and even the palace library. Each tile glowed faintly when touched, and Yarrow showed the twins how to link them together to form a sequence as they practiced. Myra suddenly stopped and pointed to a tile that had a strange glowing pattern. "What is this?" She signed, tilting her head. That Yarrow signed, in return, is the queen's private chamber. You must always wait for permission before entering. But you can learn the gestures for it, so you will know where it is. Tilo frowned slightly, but then copied her sister, tapping the tile twice. Yarrow smiled. Very good. You are learning faster than I expected. For the next hour, they continued practicing. The twins' confidence grew with each successful sequence. Yarrow was careful to praise every small step. Even when they made mistakes, he corrected them gently, never scolding or raising his voice. The twins responded well to this approach, small hands glowing brighter each time they understood a new concept. By midday, the practice session was complete. Yarrow set the tiles aside and pulled out a small snack for the twins. They ate slowly, enjoying the treat and talking to each other in gestures that only they could fully understand. Yarrow watched them fondly. The twins were happy, engaged, and learning quickly. He felt a deep satisfaction knowing that he was giving them the tools to thrive in a palace. It could have been intimidating and confusing. Just as he was finishing cleaning up, the large doors at the end of the hall opened once more. This time it was not the queen herself, but one of her advisors, a tall, slender alien with multiple glowing eyes. The advisor's gaze swept over Yarrow and the twins. Clearly curious about their progress, "Your Highness requests your presence," the advisor signed quickly. Using gestures that Yarrow understood, Yarrow looked at Mira and Tylo. They looked back at him, their eyes wide but trusting. He signed to them, "Stay here and wait. I will return soon." The twins nodded. Yarrow took a deep breath, knowing that the queen wanted to see him again. He followed the advisor down the vast hallways, each step echoing against the polished floors. The walls shimmered with holographic images of the palace's history. Yarrow felt small and out of place. But he reminded himself that he had something the palace's wealth and power could not give: love, patience, and devotion to his daughters. Finally, they arrived at a side chamber. The queen's presence filled the room even before he could see her. She was seated on a low platform, her gaze calm but penetrating. Yarrow bowed slightly, aware of his human limitations, but determined to show respect. "Yarrow." The queen signed, her gestures precise and deliberate. "I have been observing your methods with the twins. Tell me, how do you teach them so effectively?" Yarrow smiled humbly. "With patience, Your Highness," he signed. "I watch their reactions, guide their hands, and repeat gestures until they understand. Every child learns differently. I only follow what they need." The queen's eyes softened slightly. She had seen many humans attempt to teach or influence her children, often with arrogance or impatience, but Yarrow's approach was different. He did not command. He did not rush. He adapted. "Show me," she signed, indicating the tiles and stones he had brought with him. Yarrow set up the small board quickly, moving tiles to demonstrate a sequence of gestures. Mira and Tylo had practiced these at home, but this was different. The queen watched closely, her glowing eyes following each movement. Yarrow guided the tiles with care, showing how the twins would link symbols and gestures to understand the palace routines. To his surprise, the queen leaned forward, her expression curious. She gestured to one of the tiles and tapped it. "Explain this," she signed. Yarrow smiled and tapped it twice. "This represents the library. When the light glows here, it is time for learning. The twins will follow this signal." The queen nodded slowly. Yarrow could feel a faint warmth in her gaze, an unspoken acknowledgement of his efforts. She had seen many humans, but few had such dedication and care. He realized that she was testing not just his teaching methods, but his character. Mira and Tylo, sensing the queen's attention, giggled softly and waved. Their small gestures were innocent and unafraid. The queen's stern expression softened further. Even the most powerful beings could not resist the honesty and simplicity of a child's joy. Yarrow took a deep breath. "They are learning not just gestures," he signed. "They are learning to trust themselves and the world around them. Every step, every touch, is a way to grow." The queen remained silent for a long moment, her eyes studying him. Finally she signed, "Your dedication is unusual among humans. I see now that your heart guides your actions more than any rank or title. I will allow you to continue teaching them in this manner." But be aware, the palace watches, and every choice has consequences. Yarrow bowed again, humble but proud. "Thank you, Your Highness," he signed. "I only wish to guide them with care and love." The queen nodded once, then turned her attention elsewhere. Yarrow gathered his materials and left the chamber, feeling a mix of relief and pride. Mira and Tilo ran to him, their small hands clutching his tightly. He hugged them both, feeling their warmth and trust. "Did she like what we did?" Mira signed excitedly. "Yes," Yarrow signed. "She respects your progress and our work together." The twins beamed, their small faces glowing with happiness. For Yarrow, it was a victory not measured in jewels or titles, but in the confidence and joy of his daughters. In a palace full of alien authority and strict rules, he had found a way to make love and patience the strongest force of all. The day continued with laughter, gestures, and small victories. Yarrow knew that the road ahead would be filled with challenges, but for now, he allowed himself to savor the palace corridors were quieter than usual, but not empty. Yarrow walked with Mira and Tilo by his side, carrying the small board and glowing tiles. Today, he wanted to introduce the twins to another lesson, one that would teach them how to interact with the palace staff safely and confidently. The halls were filled with alien officials and attendants, each moving with purpose and authority. Yarrow knew that navigating these corridors required care and awareness, especially for children who could not hear the whispered warnings or instructions of the palace. Today, Yarrow signed, "Kneeling to Myra and Tilo, we will practice walking through the palace with confidence. We will greet others politely, and we will follow the signs for each room." The twins nodded, their small faces serious. They had already learned the gestures and symbols for rooms, activities, and schedules. Now it was time to practice in real life. They moved slowly, Yarrow holding their hands firmly. The twins stepped lightly, following the patterns of glowing stones he had placed along the hall the night before. Each stone represented a part of the palace. One led to the library, another to the dining hall, and another to the observatory. Yarrow guided them carefully, tapping the stones in sequence to remind them of the gestures. Suddenly, one of the palace attendants appeared. He was tall, with multiple glowing eyes, and his expression was stern. He stopped when he saw Yarrow and the twins. "These halls are not for play," he signed sharply. Yarrow smiled politely and signed back. "We are practicing. I am teaching them to follow palace rules safely." The attendant's eyes flickered, clearly skeptical. Most humans would have bowed or apologized profusely, but Yarrow stood calmly, showing no fear. Mira and Tilo stood quietly, holding his hands. The attendant studied them for a moment and then nodded, perhaps impressed by the human's courage and composure. He moved aside, letting them pass. "See," Yarrow signed, kneeling to the twins. "Even if someone is strict, we remain calm and polite. This is how we earn respect." The twins copied his gestures carefully, their small hands glowing faintly as they followed each sign. Yarrow could see their confidence growing. Each step they took reinforced the lessons he had been teaching them for months. As they continued, they reached the library. The large doors shimmered with light and opened automatically as they approached. Inside, rows of glowing books hovered in the air, each containing knowledge from across the galaxy. Yarrow led the twins to a small table near the center. "Here," he signed, "we learn quietly and observe. Use gestures to communicate if needed. Respect this place." Mira and Tilo nodded, fascinated by the floating books. They reached out gently to touch a few, and the books responded with soft glows, as if welcoming their curiosity. Yarrow smiled. The twins were learning not just gestures and symbols, but how to interact with the world respectfully and thoughtfully. After a few minutes, a sudden movement caught Yarrow's eye. Another child, one of the palace's young aliens, had entered the library. Unlike Myra and Tilo, this child could hear and spoke quickly in the palace language. He looked curious and a little mischievous. "Who are they?" the child asked loudly, pointing at the twins. Yarrow quickly signed to Mira and Tilo to remain calm. He stepped forward and smiled. They are my daughters. We are learning how to navigate the palace. The child frowned. A human with palace children? That is unusual, yes, Yarrow sighed calmly. But we follow the rules and respect the palace, just like everyone else. The child's eyes narrowed, clearly testing him. Yarrow remained patient. He knew that others might challenge him or underestimate him because he was human. But he also knew that his dedication and composure would speak louder than words. Mira and Tilo, sensing the tension, stayed close to their father. They repeated the gestures he had taught them, showing polite attention to the library and the other child. Slowly, the child's expression softened. He seemed to realize that the twins were disciplined and guided by someone who cared deeply for them. Very well, the child said, nodding. I will watch quietly. But I want to see if they can follow the rules outside the library as well. Yarrow nodded in agreement. That is good, he signed. They must learn everywhere, not just here. The twins practiced quietly for a few more minutes, learning how to point to tiles, gesture to Yarrow, and communicate without speaking. Yarrow watched them closely, correcting small mistakes gently. The child observed silently, occasionally whispering instructions to other young aliens. Mira and Tilo listened with their eyes and hands, absorbing the lessons faster than he had expected. Once the practice was complete, Yarrow led the twins toward the dining hall. The glowing path of stones guided them safely through the palace. Each step required careful attention as officials and staff passed by. Yarrow used subtle gestures to remind the twins to greet politely, maintain composure, and observe the surroundings. When they reached the dining hall, a sudden commotion erupted. One of the palace cooks had accidentally spilled a glowing liquid across the floor. The staff scrambled to clean it, and some officials looked annoyed. Yarrow paused, then signed quickly to the twins. Stay close. Do not touch anything. Follow my lead. The twins obeyed instantly. Yarrow guided them around the spill, using gestures to indicate safe spots and warning them where to step carefully. Myra and Tilo followed, their small hands gripping his firmly. They moved calmly, even as the chaos of the kitchen unfolded around them. One of the officials noticed their composure and stepped forward. Impressive, he signed. Most palace children would panic. How have they learned such discipline? Yarrow smiled humbly. Through patience, practice, and care, he signed, every child learns differently. They respond to guidance, not force. The official studied him for a moment, then nodded. You are unusual among humans, he signed. Few could teach children so well in such an environment. Yarrow simply nodded. He had learned long ago that humility was as important as patience. He guided the twins to a small table at the side of the hall, away from the main crowd. There, he allowed them to enjoy a quiet meal, showing them the gestures to indicate what they wanted and how to thank the staff politely. Mira and Tilo's small faces glowed with happiness. For them, every lesson was a victory, every successful gesture a reason to celebrate. Yarrow watched them, feeling the deep satisfaction of a father who had overcome impossible odds. In a palace full of rules and power, he had found a way to teach, protect, and nurture. As they finished, a soft vibration ran through the hall. It was a palace message, sent directly from the Queen. Yarrow opened it carefully. The Queen requested a private demonstration of the twins' progress. Yarrow's heart beat faster. This was a rare opportunity. He knew the Queen could be strict and demanding, but he also knew that showing the twins' skills could earn them recognition and protection. He signed quickly to the twins. We must go and show the Queen what you have learned. Be confident. Be yourselves. The twins nodded, holding his hands tightly. Together, they walked down the long corridor, each step guided by the glowing stones and the gestures Yarrow had taught. Other staff and officials watched silently, pressed by the small human father leading his unusual daughters with such calm authority. When they reached the Queen's chamber, the massive doors opened. The Queen sat as before, her gaze intense but curious. Yarrow knelt with the twins by his side, showing them where to stand. Show me your progress, the Queen signed. Mira and Tilo began to demonstrate. touching tiles, moving stones, and performing gestures with precision. Yarrow guided them subtly, ensuring they remained calm and confident. The queen watched closely, her eyes following every movement. For the first time, she spoke in her native tongue, translated into gestures. They are remarkable. Not just for children, but for beings in this palace. You have taught them well. Yarrow bowed slightly. Thank you, Your Highness. They are quick learners. They respond to patience and guidance. The queen nodded, her glowing eyes softening. Your methods are unusual. Few humans could achieve this. I will allow them greater freedom within the palace. But you must continue to guide them carefully. Yarrow smiled. I will, Your Highness. Always. After the demonstration, the queen dismissed them. Yarrow led Mira and Tilo back through the corridors. They were quiet for a moment, absorbing the experience. You were amazing, Myra signed. Very brave, Tilo added. Yarrow hugged them both. You were amazing too. Remember, courage and patience are stronger than fear. As they walked back to their small quarters, Yarrow realized that the palace, which had seemed so intimidating before, was slowly becoming a place where his daughters could thrive. Through patience, care, and love, he was proving that even a small human could make a difference in a world ruled by power and tradition. For now, the palace challenges were many, but so were the victories. And Yarrow knew that together, they could face anything.
The palace had grown quieter since the twins' demonstration for the queen. Yarrow walked with Mira and Tilo through the long corridors, their small hands clutching his tightly. Though the palace seemed calm, Yarrow sensed that the day was far from over. The queen had observed them carefully, and he knew that she did not reward effort lightly. Every step they had taken, every gesture they had performed, was now being measured against the high expectations of the palace. Today, Yarrow signed to the twins as they entered the training hall. We will prepare for the queen's next test. She may wish to see how you handle challenges without my guidance. Mira's small fingers twitched with curiosity, while Tilo's eyes sparkled with determination. They had been learning for months, but now the stakes felt higher. Yarrow knelt to their level and smiled softly. Remember, trust your instincts and use the gestures we practiced. You are capable of more than you think. The training hall was vast, larger than any room they had explored before. Its floors shimmered with light that responded to movement, and the walls displayed holographic maps of the palace and nearby lands. Several palace officials moved about, preparing equipment and devices for instruction. Yarrow guided the twins to the center of the hall and began a final review of the gestures and tiles. Follow the sequence carefully, he signed. Observe the signals and respond with confidence. Mistakes are lessons, not failures. Mira and Tilo nodded, repeating the gestures carefully. Their hands glowed faintly as they moved, and Yarrow felt a deep pride. These small lights, reflections of their energy and focus, reminded him why he had come to the palace in the first place. His mission was not simply to clean floors or maintain order. It was to give his daughters a chance to grow strong, confident, and capable, even in a world that seemed too vast and alien for humans. Suddenly, the hall's doors opened with a soft hum. The queen entered, accompanied by several high-ranking officials. Her presence radiated authority, yet her gaze held a hint of curiosity. She moved slowly, observing the human and his daughters. Yarrow stood respectfully, keeping the twins close. Today, I wish to see how they handle new challenges, the queen signed, her gestures precise and deliberate. You may assist only if they falter. Let us begin. Yarrow nodded, understanding the unspoken rules. He would guide only if necessary, allowing the twins to demonstrate independence. Mira and Tilo straightened, their small bodies glowing with determination. Yarrow's heart swelled. He had taught them well, and now they would show the queen what they could do. The first task involved a series of floating symbols that appeared above the floor, representing areas of the palace and daily activities. The twins had to link these symbols in the correct order using gestures and tiles. Mira took the lead, reaching out to touch the first symbol. Her fingers glowed as she moved the tile into place. Tilo followed, carefully observing the sequence. The queen watched intently, her glowing eyes following every movement. Yarrow remained still, only intervening when Tilo's hand hovered uncertainly over a symbol. He gently guided her, reminding her of the gesture without speaking. Tilo's face lit up as she completed the sequence correctly. "Excellent," the queen signed, her gaze softening. "They are precise and attentive. Few beings could learn so quickly." The next task was more difficult. A series of glowing pathways appeared on the floor, each leading to a different chamber. The twins had to navigate these paths while avoiding obstacles, all without verbal instruction. Mira hesitated for a moment, then took a careful step forward. Tilo followed, her small hands moving in tandem with her sister's gestures. A sudden obstacle appeared, a small floating orb that moved unpredictably across the path. Mira froze for a second, uncertainty in her eyes. Jaro signed quickly, reminding her to watch the orb's movement and adjust her steps. Mira nodded and stepped aside just in time, her small hands glowing brighter with concentration. Tilo mirrored her movements perfectly. The queen's gaze lingered on them. She had seen many beings navigate obstacles, but rarely with such calm and precise coordination. The twins' ability to follow gestures, interpret signals, and act independently impressed her deeply. After the pathway, the final task required them to communicate a simple message to one of the palace officials using only gestures and tiles. Mira and Tilo approached the official, repeating the gestures they had practiced. The official observed silently, then nodded, acknowledging that the message had been conveyed correctly. The queen's expression softened further. She stepped closer to Jaro and the twins, her glowing eyes studying them carefully. "You have trained them well," she signed. "Not just in skills, but in confidence and thoughtfulness. Few teachers, human or otherwise, could achieve this." Jaro bowed slightly, humbled. "Thank you, Your Highness. I have only guided them with patience and care. They have learned because they are curious, capable, and brave." The queen turned to Mira and Tilo. She knelt slightly to meet their eyes, which glowed faintly with pride and determination. "You have done well," she signed. "Your actions show respect, intelligence, and courage. You may continue to explore the palace and learn under guidance, but always remember to honor those who watch and protect you." The twins smiled brightly, their small hands waving gently. Jaro felt a deep warmth in his chest. This moment was more than recognition. It was proof that even a human, small and simple compared to the powerful beings of the palace, could create respect through patience, care, and unwavering dedication. As the queen rose, she placed a small, glowing emblem on the twins' table. "This symbolizes your progress and my acknowledgement," she signed. "Keep it close and remember the lessons you have learned today." Mira and Tilo reached out to touch the emblem, their faces lighting up. Jaro knelt beside them, placing a hand gently on each of their shoulders. "This is a gift of recognition," he signed. "It is proof that your efforts are seen and respected." The queen stepped back and addressed Jaro directly. "Your dedication is unusual among humans," she signed. "I will allow you greater freedom to teach and protect them, but you must remain vigilant. The palace is full of challenges, and not all beings will understand your methods." Jaro nodded. "I will, Your Highness. My only wish is to guide them and ensure they grow strong and confident." The queen's gaze lingered on him for a moment longer, as if weighing his sincerity. Then she inclined her head slightly and left the hall, signaling that the session was complete. Jaro guided the twins back through the palace corridors. They walked quietly, their small hands clutching his. Mira held the glowing emblem tightly, and Tilo's eyes sparkled with excitement. For them, the recognition of the queen was more than a symbol. It was a validation of their abilities and their place in this vast alien world. "Father," Mira signed softly. "Did we really impress her?" "Yes," Jaro signed gently. "You did exactly what you were capable of. You showed her your strength, your patience, and your courage." Tilo looked up at him. "Will she trust us now?" Jaro smiled. "Trust is earned slowly. Today, you took the first steps. Keep learning, keep practicing, and you will earn even more." The rest of the day passed in a blur of practice, exploration, and quiet reflection. Jaro allowed the twins to explore areas of the palace that were now open to them, observing their interactions and offering subtle guidance. He noticed how the other children of the palace watched them with curiosity, some with admiration, others with mild envy. But Mira and Tilo remained confident, their small hands glowing with each gesture they performed successfully. By evening, Jaro led the twins to a quiet courtyard filled with soft, glowing plants and gentle pools of water. The air was calm, and the twin sun's light had faded to a soft glow. He knelt between the twins and signed gently. "You have done well today. The Queen has seen your progress and the palace recognizes your efforts. But remember, every day is a new opportunity to learn and grow." Mira leaned against him, her small fingers still holding the emblem. Tilo rested her head on his shoulder. For Jaro, this quiet moment was as significant as any royal acknowledgement. It was proof that love, patience, and dedication could create bonds stronger than fear or authority. He looked up at the glowing palace towers, thinking of the days ahead. There would be challenges, tests, and unexpected obstacles, but he also knew that they had earned something important. Respect and recognition not through power or title, but through courage, care, and determination. As night fell over the palace, Jaro held his daughters close. He knew that tomorrow would bring new lessons, new tasks, and perhaps new encounters with the Queen or other officials. But for now, the quiet victory of the day was enough. His daughters had proven themselves, and he had shown that even a single human father could make a difference in a world full of powerful beings. And in that moment, surrounded by the gentle glow of the palace and the warmth of his daughters, Jaro realized that human determination, love, and patience were forces no power in the galaxy could ignore. The next morning, the palace was bathed in the soft glow of twin suns rising over the horizon. Jaro walked through the long corridors, Mira and Tilo holding his hands tightly. The halls that once seemed intimidating now felt familiar. The Queen had recognized their efforts, and even though the palace remained full of rules and tradition, Jaro sensed a subtle shift. There was respect in the air, a quiet acknowledgement that he and his daughters were no longer simply outsiders. "Today," Jaro signed to the twins, kneeling to meet their eyes, "we will visit the central garden. It is a place for learning, reflection, and patience. You will use the gestures and symbols we have practiced to explore and understand it." Mira and Tilo nodded, excitement shining in their glowing eyes. The central garden was vast, filled with exotic plants that glimmered softly in the morning light. Paths of floating stones guided visitors through fountains, sculptures, and small groves. Jaro led them carefully, pausing at each new symbol or stone to show the twins the gestures and sequences associated with the area. As they moved through the garden, Jaro noticed officials watching from a distance. Many whispered to each other, their glowing eyes observing the human father guiding his daughters. Some seemed skeptical, while others appeared intrigued by his patience and dedication. Jaro did not let it concern him. His focus remained on the twins and their learning. Mira approached a small fountain with glowing water and tapped a symbol representing observation. Jaro signed softly, "Notice the details. Every movement, every pattern matters." Mira traced her fingers over the water, her small hands glowing as she followed the gestures. Tilo mirrored her, adding her own observation, and Jaro nodded in approval. A sudden rustling came from the bushes nearby. A group of palace children emerged, curious about the twins. They had heard of Mira and Tilo's progress and wanted to see them in action. Some were eager to challenge the twins, while others seemed genuinely interested in learning. One of the older children stepped forward. "Can they really navigate the palace and follow the gestures correctly?" He signed. Jaro knelt beside the twins. "They have been practicing with care," he signed. "Watch them and see for yourself." Mira and Tilo began to demonstrate. They moved through the floating stones, tapping symbols and performing gestures with precision. The older children watched, some with surprise, others with admiration. The twins' calmness and confidence impressed even those who had doubted them. The Queen arrived quietly, her presence causing the onlookers to bow and step back. She walked toward Jaro and the twins, observing their movements closely. Her glowing eyes reflected interest and evaluation. Jaro remained calm, letting the twins perform independently, only offering subtle guidance when necessary. "Observe," the Queen signed to the officials nearby. "See how they respond to guidance, curiosity, and challenges. Few beings, human or otherwise, display such capability." Jaro felt a swell of pride but stayed composed. He knew this was more than a test of skill. It was a test of character, patience, and trust. Mira and Tilo continued their demonstration, moving through the garden with focus, linking symbols, gestures, and action seamlessly. The Queen approached them slowly, kneeling slightly to be at eye level with the twins. "You have done well," she signed. "Your actions show intelligence, patience, and courage. You may continue to explore and learn under guidance." But always remember to respect the palace and those who watch you." Mira and Tilo smiled brightly, glowing with pride. Jaro placed a hand gently on each of their shoulders. "This is recognition," he signed. "You have earned respect through your actions, care, and patience." The queen turned to Jaro. "Your dedication is remarkable. You have guided them with love, patience, and wisdom. I will grant you permission to teach and protect them freely within the palace. You are no longer simply a janitor. Your place here is earned through your actions." Jaro bowed humbly. "Thank you, Your Highness. I only wish to guide them and help them grow strong and confident." The queen's gaze lingered on him for a moment, her eyes reflecting approval and respect. Then she rose and moved to a quiet grove nearby. Jaro followed, keeping Mira and Tilo close. "This day," he signed to the twins, "marks a new beginning. The queen has seen your strength, patience, and courage. You now have more freedom to learn and explore. But remember, every day brings lessons and challenges." The twins nodded, their faces glowing with excitement. They had proven themselves to the most powerful being in the palace, yet Jaro reminded them that true learning never ended. As they explored the garden, Jaro noticed small moments of wonder. Mira reached for a glowing flower and traced its patterns with her fingers. Tilo touched a small pond, watching the reflection of the twin suns ripple across the water. Jaro guided them gently, showing how to observe, learn, and interact without disturbing the delicate balance of the garden. Other palace children approached, now curious and respectful. Some asked questions using gestures, while others simply watched in awe. Mira and Tilo responded with calm confidence, using the lessons Jaro had taught them. The queen observed from a distance, her eyes reflecting satisfaction. Later, the queen approached directly. She knelt again, placing a small glowing emblem in front of the twins. "This symbolizes your progress, respect, and trust," she signed. "Keep it close and remember that your actions define your place here more than words or titles." Mira and Tilo touched the emblem gently, their glowing fingers reflecting pride and excitement. Jaro knelt beside them, placing a hand on each shoulder. "This is proof," he signed. "Not of power, but of patience, love, and courage." The queen looked at Jaro and signed slowly. "You have shown that a human heart, guided by care and determination, can create bonds stronger than authority or tradition. I recognize your place in this palace. Teach them, protect them, and continue to guide them wisely." Jaro bowed deeply. "I will, Your Highness, always." The queen rose and left the garden, leaving a sense of quiet authority and approval in her wake. Jaro led the twins back through the palace corridors. The halls no longer felt intimidating. They now felt alive with potential and possibility. Every official they passed bowed slightly, acknowledging their accomplishments. Jaro knew that their presence had earned respect through action and character, not through titles or status. That evening, Jaro brought the twins to a quiet courtyard filled with soft, glowing plants. He knelt between them and signed. "Today you have learned more than gestures or symbols. You have learned courage, patience, and respect. The queen has recognized your efforts and the palace honors your progress. But remember, every day is a new opportunity to grow stronger and wiser." Mira leaned against him, holding the glowing emblem close. Tilo rested her head on his shoulder, her eyes sparkling with pride. Jaro felt a warmth in his chest that no palace grandeur or royal acknowledgement could match. This was the victory of the heart, the proof that love and patience could overcome any obstacle. "Father," Mira signed softly, "do you think we can do even more tomorrow?" "Yes," Jaro signed gently. "Every day brings a new lesson. We will learn, explore, and grow together, and every step we take will show the palace what we are capable of." The twins smiled, their small faces glowing with excitement. For Jaro, the day was not just a recognition of skill, but a confirmation of something greater. Even a human, small and simple compared to the beings of the palace, could create change through love, patience, and unwavering determination. As night fell over the palace, the twin suns' glow fading into soft starlight, Jaro held his daughters close. The palace that had once seemed vast and intimidating now felt like home. Through effort, courage, and care, they had earned respect, freedom, and trust. In that moment, surrounded by glowing gardens, gentle fountains, and the quiet hum of the palace, Jaro realized something profound. Human determination, patience, and love were forces that no power or tradition in the galaxy could ignore. Through them, Even a single father could protect, teach, and guide his children to greatness, earning recognition and respect in the most extraordinary of places. The twins slept that night with the glowing emblem close to their hearts, and Jarro watched over them, proud and vigilant. The palace might have been full of powerful beings, strict rules and endless tests, but in his small family, he had created a place where love, courage, and patience shone brighter than any palace jewel. And as the stars twinkled above the palace towers, Jarro knew that their journey was only beginning. Together they would face every challenge, explore every wonder, and prove that human heart and determination could shine even among the stars.